become epic scale. That saga of Sai Baba, we didn't even know that it is a saga, that it is something epic, his life journey. Mahakavyam. It's like a Mahakavyam. Maybe you and I don't even deserve to talk about him now. Maybe we are still trying to pitch him at some very basic level. Because he was with us, because he was our comrade in arms. So maybe we are maybe binding him down, you know. Maybe our imagination is not able to really see what he has become. Human rights activist. Some people are thinking that by calling Sai Baba human rights activist, they are doing him a great honor or a great favor. But as I see the way Sai Baba's death has aroused the sentiments and emotions and feelings of not just comrades, activists, intellectuals, no, like ordinary people. Ordinary people are somehow seeing that yes, how could they do this to Sai Baba? How could there be so much cruelty against a person? How could he have been meted this kind of a inhuman treatment? But who is doing this? Who meted out? Who are those people who meted out this inhuman treatment to Sai Baba? People are asking, people are wondering. Maybe they're not already asking, but they're wondering. You know, there's a difference between asking, articulating clearly, and actually asking a question and just wondering. There is a kind of a churning taking place in people's minds about what has happened. So maybe they are not able to identify who the perpetrators are. Now you will say the perpetrator is the state, the perpetrator is NIA, but no. Now if people are understanding and they are embracing Sai Baba with his epic story, then they will understand it in their own way, you know. They will understand, they will have terms which are maybe you and I are not using. The revolutionary movement has lacked the ability to tell a story. You are writing your documents, nobody wants to read. You are using big jargons. And the revolutionary movement is vilified. That these people, revolutionaries, they believe in revolutionary violence. They believe in the cult of violence. These are terrorists. There is a vilification campaign, vilification of revolutionaries. I mean, at one level, maybe this has always happened in history. People talk about Kumaram Bhim, Birsa Munda, Bhagat Singh, but when they were alive, they were vilified as terrorists, as murderers, as people paying for blood, and not really in sync with the sentiments of ordinary people. So it happens very rarely when a person who leads a revolutionary life is vindicated by the sentiments of ordinary people the way Sai Baba is today vindicated. All kinds of ordinary people are themselves associating, and they are seeing the cruelty. They are saying, how could they do this to him? You know, and the usual charges that are leveled, the way, the kind of portrayal of the revolutionary as cut up from society, you know, as having a kind of one-dimensional view of life, as cruel. Not the state. The revolutionary is depicted as cruel, you know. as somewhere detached from life. So when you say that we have a critique of parliamentary democracy, somewhere you are regarded as a cult kind of a person. You know, you are like an extremist. You are not part of society. You are doing something extreme. You know, there is a poem which was written by Saroj Datta in the 1970s. And today, I don't know why, I was reminded of Saroj Datta's poem, which I had quoted somewhere. So I was trying to find out those lines. I want to read those lines. Saroj Datta, the great poet, who was subsequently martyred. So this is something he's writing in the 70s, 1970s, Calcutta. And the revolutionary life, the life of the revolutionary, he reflects on that in this poem. He writes, sometimes I feel that I am treading a dangerous path. At night, at the hypnotic call of some spirit, on waking up, I will realize with a shudder that I have not a single fellow traveler in the world. This sentiment of despondency, of loneliness, where there is no one you can talk to, where maybe your friends from school no longer want to associate with you. Why? Because you are too much extreme. When I was reading this from the great poet Saroj Datta, I was thinking, Sai must have had a similar sentiment when he was in the Anda cell, when he was in jail, being alone in that path. And in a way, society also gives up on you. A lot of people were distancing themselves from Sai Baba, colleagues. In fact, let me tell you, while it has touched the hearts of a lot of ordinary people, maybe people just watching TV in the house, they are not nothing, they are maybe ordinary housewives, just a rickshaw puller, they are watching whatever they are seeing on TV. But we are not able to kind of figure out how to consolidate that. You see? How will you consolidate that? How will you, there is this tremendous, maybe emotional outpouring in favor of Sai Baba. And maybe they are not able to pinpoint who are these enemies, who are these people who perpetrated such cruelty on him. Maybe it is the task of the revolutionary movement, maybe it is the task of particularly the cultural troupe, poets, singers, to now weave that sentiment which is already there, and it comes very rarely, let me tell you. There have been a lot of martyrs from the movement, but very few who has touched even the sentiments of middle class, as well as the ordinary poor. The way Sai Baba's saga, the way Sai Baba's epic, Mahakavya-like life has unfolded. So it is a task, our task. Maybe here we are here, it is just very recent that he died, we are still condoling. But in terms of the political task, it is not just enough to talk about Operation Samadhan Prahar and Operation Kagar. But I would say, if you want to talk about Operation Samadhan Prahar, Operation Kagar, and what the kind of terror, the genocidal violence that is going on today in central India, precisely in areas like Gadchiroli, because you know Gadchiroli was the place from where the first police team came to Sai Baba's house. Gadchiroli. I often repeat these names, we need to remember these names. Aheri. 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 The police station called Aheri. That's the police station. Now you would imagine Delhi University, he's a professor there, why would a Aheri police team, Aheri, like nobody knows where this place is, right? Come all the way to Delhi and raid the house of a professor there? And the answer is very simple. This is a mining zone and there are big mining interests. And people like Sai Baba, as the court in fact said in its conviction judgment, Sai Baba is blocking that. And that was of course precisely why we are in the struggle. We want to block that and we are not denying that. You know, we are not just saying, today everybody is talking safe democracy, safe constitution and nobody knows what it means. When we say safe democracy, safe constitution, we mean that if at all it means anything, if at all it means anything, it can mean, for example, that the Gram Sabhas which are in those areas, in mining areas, should be able to, because Gram Sabha is a constitutional provision, right? It comes from a constitutional provision. Then the Gram Sabha should be able to actually block the kind of displacement of Adivasis that are going there. But it is not able to block. The Gram Sabhas are largely a failure, and wherever it is successful only because the revolutionary movement is able to make sure that the Gram Sabhas are now not hijacked by the company and the police administration. Right? So, what we see then is that Sai Baba's saga has touched the hearts of a lot of ordinary people who maybe don't understand all these details, but somewhere they are able to see this. On the other hand, are more educated people, professional people, even like in Delhi University, some of our colleagues, they are still kind of not really coming out, you know. So maybe the educated sections, maybe the slightly privileged sections are still trying to see, you know, whether it's safe to associate with Sai Baba or not. They are still trying to be very clever. So when we organize these programs in Delhi University, even from the English department where he taught, you know, and Delhi University is a big university, you know, so only in the English department there will be like hundreds of teachers. The participation of the teachers who maybe personally knew Sai Baba, worked with Sai Baba, professional relations with Sai Baba, very few turned up. Some turned up, but very few turned up, right? So, but what is going on, I think, is that instead of really focusing only on that, I think we need to see that here is someone like Sai Baba whose story is capable of touching the hearts of millions, right? Maybe people will make a movie on him, you know, right? Like that kind of a life, that it will make even ordinary people have tears in their eyes. But I think the task of people gathered in this hall, conscious revolutionaries, comrades, is I think really, how do we really now, you know, consolidate this? How do we really clarify the situation to a lot of people who in their own way are somewhere thinking that, oh, this was a tremendous wrong that was committed on this man. People are able to see it, you know, they are able to feel it, but they are not able to clearly articulate it. And I think that is the task which comes on our shoulders with the martyrdom of Sai Baba. And only in passing, you know, like when a person is alive, you do not know his power. You do not know what he was all about. It is only when a person dies, only when his life in a way comes to a closure, do you sum up his life. Right? And then you know, okay, this man was like this. We draw a conclusion. Right? So at one level, this is what is happening. That he has died and now we are discovering him. Right? But with Sai Baba, it is much more than that. Right? A kind of a little community has come up. Community of people who are moved and touched by Sai's life. And a huge community. That a French ambassador, a German ambassador, is writing a letter in support. And I was wondering, the French ambassador before writing the letter must have thought so many times, because these are all, can also spoil diplomatic relations, you know. Right? He must have thought 10 times, should I write this letter in support of Sai Baba or not? And yet they did write. That means the letter is just a little kind of a thing, There is so much going on in people's minds which are not yet articulated. So this veritable community which has come around Sai Baba, which is I think beyond even like the immediate implications of his politics, people across the board, right? You have all kinds of organizations like say disabled organizations, people working on rights for disabled, they are doing their own thing, right? So this collective that has come, this almost like a invisible community that has come around Sai Baba, I call it the community of absence. When you lose someone, and that's when you feel that loss very intimately, right? And then you realize that there is this similar feeling among so many people, and that in itself creates a kind of a community. But that's where I think again we need to see that the struggle that is happening, of which Sai Baba was a part, how do we make this kind of a invisible community of people who are feeling for Sai Baba, touched by his epic life, how do we make the struggle speak to this kind of a community of absence that is there? And I think that is the challenge. And in a way, metaphorically speaking, you can even say that the struggle of the Adivasi, in fact the figure of the Adivasi, not just the struggle of the Adivasi has always been a kind of a suppressed figure in Indian society, right? If the same struggle is done by maybe some other sections, it gets more visibility, right? So in a way, what is happening in Gadchiroli, what is happening in Chhattisgarh, Bastar, Jharkhand, all these areas, what we call the Mulvasis, their struggle is a struggle which is already invisibilized, which is already suppressed, which is not allowed to come into view. So they are already in that sense always dead. They are always not there, in front of us. So it is always suppressed. Now Sai Baba's life, the way it is touching a lot of hearts, my fear is of course that it will also become another bandwagon, and the struggle of the Adivasi will be left out, and Sai Baba might be presented as just a human rights activist, as just a professor, as just a dissenter. There is someone, a person of eminence. A lot of activists are there. I don't know, I can even think of Edward Snowden, the first thing, of course, I didn't think of Edward Snowden in this case. I, of course, thought about Yahya Sinwar, the kind of, the way Yahya Sinwar of Hamas touches us, right? I had that kind of a feeling when I thought about Sai Baba's martyrdom. So I think we need to really, in the coming days, think of how the kind of enormous outpouring of feelings. I was told by comrades here that almost every Andhra newspaper has written an editorial on Sai Baba. Same thing in Delhi. People who otherwise do not identify with Sai Baba's politics have also written, have also shown kind of on Twitter or elsewhere, shown that they really are touched by what happened with Sai Baba, right? But the entire politics is there, the entire revolutionary politics is there. So how do we really bring that to the fore? And I think that's where we need to see that the struggle of the Adivasi, which is already suppressed from before, which is already pushed to the always to the backyards, that will Adivasi actually find a place in this acceptability of Sai Baba now, right? Will the ambassador of Russia or France or Germany, will they also write a letter in support of the struggle of the Adivasis? Will the French companies who have a lot of investment in India, even they will sit up and take notice, right? I think this is the challenge for us. So if Sai Baba becomes like an icon, if Sai Baba is already becoming like an icon, right? So where does the struggle stand alongside that? And I think that is the question we need to answer. And the other point I want to tell you is that this is a great vindication of the revolutionary movement. That a point which I made earlier, right? That there is so much of vilification of the movement and of the revolutionary. With Sai Baba, we see that look, this could be the life of a revolutionary. This is the life of the revolutionary, and this entire slur. You see, there is one is the witch hunt, where NIA comes, arrests people, and I know there have been NIA raids happening in Andhra Pradesh. But somewhere in the minds and sentiments of a lot of ordinary people, this has been passed on. That these people are anyways too radical or too extreme. So this kind of a vilification, I remember even in the UPA Congress time, that was the case. When the Operation Green Hunt was happening, when Chidambaram, all these people were doing what they were doing, as you all remember, they were vilifying the movement and they were saying these are national security threat. So what happens to this narrative of the national security threat? And people are able to see through now with Sai Baba's life. Who is a national security threat? How could Sai Baba be a national security threat? That Manmohan Singh said that, right? That this is the largest, most serious national security threat, even more serious than what is happening in Kashmir and in the Northeast. Today, with Sai Baba's life, there is a definitive answer, right? Given there, that look, whom you considered as a threat, whom you considered as conspirator, they are conspirators against the nation. You see, you can always give arguments, that no, we are not doing this, we are actually following the Constitution. In fact, we are the true defenders of the Constitution. But when the answer comes through someone's life, a life lived like nobody else's, he was given life imprisonment, he was incarcerated, the most serious kind of incarceration for 10 years. Right? So when his life and his death, because of the incarceration, because of the kind of cruelty that was meted out to him. So this is like a slap on the face of the powers that be, and I feel we are vindicated. So we need to have this sense of confidence and we are all uplifted by Sai Baba's life. We need to intensify our activity now because of that, right? So we are on a higher plane now. We are on a higher plane, and maybe you are not living in the age of Mahakavyas. Maybe such an epic life is very rare to find these days. But I think we have an epic life with us. So we must carry this forward. Maybe our singers, maybe will write new songs. You have so much material to write songs, beautiful songs about his life. And those songs, I think we should take those songs to the villages, take those songs to every school, every gully, every factory, to the Kisan Andolan, and arouse the feelings of people. Because people are already feeling this, right? But they are not able to really give it some kind of a shape. They are not able to clearly articulate it. They are not able to identify who are the perpetrators who did this. I think through songs, through plays, through drama, I think that's where we need to focus on. At the level of argumentation, at the level of writing, of course we are doing that, but I think that's what's really needed. Here is, I would say, for the first time since the 70s, we have the life of a militant with us who actually arouses, touches us so deep down in our hearts. The other thing is, think about the Kisan Andolan. I don't know, this point maybe has not come about with reference to Sai Baba. I remember Sai Baba was part of the farmers movement. I think it was through the RDF. And I think this Tikayat's father, that time he was at the forefront, Mahendra Singh Tikayat, in the Kisan Andolan. So there was an anti-imperialist front of farmers, and Sai Baba was very active in that. I think we need to also not forget this. We should also highlight this point about Sai Baba. I personally met him after he came out of jail, and in fact I thought, I should not take much of his time because I thought so many other people must be meeting, but I was kind of touched when I was told to come for this program. Vasanta had called me and she said, you should come. I said, I'm not even well and I'm doing, stretched, very thin and stuck up into many things. And Hyderabad people, they are very intelligent and wise, and who am I to go and speak there? And then she said, no, but then I said, but why don't you also call other people? I gave a few names instead of me, because they have all met Sai after he came out of jail. And she told me that, but no, you spent the longest time with him, And I was kind of surprised because I thought other people were doing that, And I felt doubly at loss because I knew I could have spent maybe more time with him, but I just thought maybe other people were doing that, others were also spending maybe more time with him. But anyways, the amount of time I spent with him, I felt, something which I must share with you, and Sai also felt that he was giving a lot of interviews. In fact, whenever I was going to meet Sai in the house, there was always some journalist or someone who would be there, either about to take an interview or just having finished an interview. But there was this feeling that, all the interviews are kind of getting repetitive, and he is just giving a kind of a formal narrative that this happened, which is a narrative which is available, in the public domain. But what he went through, what were his thoughts, inside the jail, when he is again, as I was reading out this Saroj Datta poem, that desolation, that isolation, that loneliness in jail. But for the revolutionary movement, even when you are outside of jail, you feel that desolation, right? So what he went through, and I was telling Sai that, we need to maybe record an interview with you, maybe I will sit with you, and we need to talk at like a more raw level. The raw side has not come. Still, it is still like so wherever you will see some videos that are there on YouTube, it is like he's gone to some program and 10 minutes he's spoken. So my sense of personal loss with him is that, I just couldn't know him. Maybe Pasanda and Manjira, they would definitely have a different experience. But I think at that level, we could not relate to Sai, maybe we thought, of course, that he's going to be around with us for a longer time. We thought there would always be another time to talk to him. And I think that is a very, very big loss. And because of this loss also, I think we feel even more attached to him. The kind of, what I was telling you, the intimacy of loss. That because we couldn't do all that, maybe some of us also feel a little sense of guilt, that we didn't do enough, or we didn't reach out to him, So that makes our feelings even more sharp, even more intense, that attachment, right, to Sai. And I think a lot of people are feeling that, people who are close to him, but people who are really somewhere else, who are just watching this news unfold on TV, or they're just seeing some little story somewhere. So I think this is an epic thing which has happened with us. And I think we should try to live up to this situation. Otherwise, it will be a major failing for us. Thank you for it.